Good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, January 27, 2026, and this is the City of Clarkston City Council work session. I am Mayor Beverly H. Burks, and we will start with roll call with Vice Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilwoman Bell.
Present.
Councilman Perkins.
Present.
Councilman Moore. Councilwoman Adi.
Present.
And Councilwoman Bayonne.
Present.
And I will recognize our city manager, Shaquia Miller Thornton.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any updates to the agenda?
I have an update. I move that we add discussion of a request from the owner of 590 Woodland Avenue for the City Council to approve discount of interest incurred for a lien on for demolition performed by the city at the property.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and that would be 7H. With that, are there any other changes? Are you ready for the question? All in favor to add to the agenda a discussion of a request from the owner of 590 Woodland Avenue for the City Council to approve a discount of interest incurred on a lien for demolition performed by the city at the property, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed, and we will proceed. The next item is item 3, which is a public hearing. 3A, to hear public comments on the proposed text amendment to the City of Clarkston zoning ordinance Appendix A, Article 2, to amend the written notice to adjacent and nearby property owners' requirements. And City Manager?
Yes, ma'am. We'll have Mr. Edwards to come and give background on that item, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't hear you.
There we go. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a proposed text amendment that would amend the written public notice requirements to only require a regular USPS mailing notice, as opposed to the current certified mail return receipt requested requirement for the Planning and Zoning Board and City Council. Further, this text amendment would also increase the mailing period from 15 days to 20 days. And just to give you kind of an idea of what this is doing, currently a certified mail return receipt mailed notice is approximately $8.12 per letter. And just on my research, we're averaging about 30 per zoning request. So we're looking about $243.60 per meeting just for mailing notices, or an average of approximately $500 on addition to all of the fees that we already charge for variances, rezonings, and other zoning items. And with that, staff is requesting that Section 205B4 be amended to read, written notice to adjacent and nearby property owners. The local government shall, at the applicant's expense, give written notice by USPS regular mail to all property owners within 300 feet of the boundaries of the property as appears in DeKalb County tax records. The measurements shall be performed from each boundary of the property that is in subject of a zoning petition or special use application. Public notices shall be mailed a minimum of 20 calendar days and a maximum of 45 calendar days prior to the public hearing. Fees for mailed written notice shall be prepaid by the applicant in accordance with the fees provided in the official fee schedule of the City of Clarkston. And that is for the Planning and Zoning Board review. And we're also requesting for D3 to be amended to read exactly that, which would amend it for all of our City Council items that would be presented before you for zoning. And with that, I will turn it over to the Mayor for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. At this time, I'll open it up for our public hearing, and this is a zoning hearing. So with that, I will make sure in terms of the allotted time, we'll have 20 minutes for anyone at that time to speak. So I will begin with anyone who would like to speak for this particular item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this particular item in the favor? Anyone who'd like to speak? Anyone who would like to speak? Hearing none, then it is closed in terms of the favor of this item. We'll turn now to anyone who is opposed to this item. Is there anyone opposed to this item and would like to speak? Is there anyone opposed to this item who would like to speak? Is there anyone opposed to this item who would like to speak? And just for clarity, Clerk Mitchell, did we have anyone signed up for it? Okay. Hearing none and no one to say in opposition, then the public hearing is closed at this time. We will now proceed with presentations with a presentation of the Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A, quarterly status update by Kimberly Horn, and we will have Mr. Kaiser to introduce this.
Happy New Year, Mayor.
Good evening.
Members of council. This is the second presentation of the SS4A program. Significant progress has been made. A lot of public outreach, a number of public meetings, a lot of community input. But I think the most important part of this second presentation is what we are doing to the North Indian Creek corridor. We've had a couple of site tours. We've walked the corridor, identified a whole slew of, and slew is not an engineering word, it's just a normal word, a slew of issues along the corridor. And the reason we jumped on this so quickly, as per the schedule, is the NOFA announcement for the next phase of the bipartisan infrastructure law funding program has not come out yet. We don't know if it's going to be funded or not, but it's going to come out very, very soon. And if it is, we want to be prepared for it. And so we're not quite sure, based upon our schedule, what we can go after, whether it is funding for the construction of the entire corridor, or whether it is funding for various countermeasures along the corridor, or also in the city throughout, for that matter. So we're waiting for that NOFA announcement, and then we'll discuss strategy on what to pursue if it does come out. So if it does come out, it must probably be June, July period of time. There's not a lot of time left over to get certain things done on the grant. Grant deadline is September of this year, so we have a very short time frame to work with here. And I guess that's really it. At this point, I would want to mention when Atkins comes up here for the trail presentation that we're working very closely with the trail program as well. And so with that, I don't want to give all my time because Christina Pastor is going to come up here and do the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, and Ms. Christine, how you doing? And we want to make sure the mic is working for you before we proceed. Can you just tap it and see if it? Nope. Mm-hmm. I know. Okay, all right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here to be able to give you an update on the Safety Action Plan. As Larry mentioned, my name is Christina Pastor. I'm serving as the project manager for the consultant team from Kimberly Horn. So my colleague and deputy project manager, Tracy Lehman, was here in August to provide an update to you, to give us just an overview of the team, highlights of the SS4A program, and outlined our project scope and timeline. What I'm here today to do is to give you an update on three primary topics: our stakeholder and community engagement, which has been robust, progress on the North Indian Creek and Montreal Road corridor, and updates on the development of our safety priority network. So this first section is a recap of our first round of engagement. We will be doing another round of engagement coming up in the spring, and so we'll have more opportunity to provide some updates there. In the fall of 2025, we began our stakeholder and community engagement, and that included things like pop-ups and events, going out to visit the community and meet them where they are so that we could really just meet people as they were going about their daily business. This included a trunk or treat event, and yes, you can see that is our colleague Ed from Sycamore, who is dressed up like a traffic cone. He had a good time that evening passing out candy. We also engaged with soccer players and their families at Milam Park. More recently, we were thrilled to provide, to be able to engage with the community at the masjid during a Friday Jummah service, and to be able to just engage with people who are coming to the mosque to worship. And it was a great opportunity. We also hosted an in-language focus group in partnership with the Imani Women's Center and their community partners. We engaged 75 attendees in 8 different languages to discuss their needs around transportation safety. Additionally, we hosted 2 public open houses at the Clarkston Community Center that were open to the public for them to attend and learn and provide input. The Imani Women's Center community partners were on hand to provide interpretation support, which ended up being a tremendous help given the community members that did come to attend. For those unable to join us in person, we have an interactive website that gives people an opportunity to, for example, place pins on the map to tell us places where they feel safe, as well as places where they don't feel safe. We also had other questions regarding vision and goals that they could provide input on. And of course, the website serves as an opportunity for information repository to save all of our documents, our presentations for the public to access throughout the study. In terms of other engagement to date, we have a very enthusiastic and participatory steering committee, which is fantastic. They have helped us. We've had 4 meetings with them so far, and they've really helped us to provide input on not only the engagement strategy, but also some of the technical analysis, and that's been wonderful. I also want to thank you, the mayor and city council members who we've had a chance to do interviews with so far. It's been great input, and we will be coming back to you again in the spring to talk about recommendations. So thank you in advance for that time that you'll be spending with us. We've also had more than 20 individual or small group interviews with nearly 40 participants to be able to have very targeted conversations. And we've had a good amount of promotional collateral, including social media, newsletters, flyers, yard signs, and then also leveraging our stakeholder network to be able to help get the word out. So that's our update on engagement. The next portion that I really want to spend some time on is our update on the North Indian Creek Drive and Montreal Road corridor. Our team has been conducting crash analyses, site visits, including city staff, and that's provided a lot of valuable insights. We've done 4 of those site visits so far, and we've also been able to obtain feedback from the community that has helped to inform our technical process. The team is currently working in partnership with our project management team to develop concepts for the corridor. Throughout the process, we are coordinating with the Atkins team, who you'll hear from in just a little bit, on the design of the Phase 1 Greenway and Trail Design project to ensure the connection between those two can be seamless. We're also coordinating closely with the pond team, who is going to be conducting the comprehensive land use plan update, making sure that we're sharing relevant information as needed and coordinating on public outreach efforts to make sure that we're reducing public input fatigue. The corridor has 3 segments. From Memorial to East Ponce, it's 3 lanes with bike lanes. From East Ponce to Montreal, it's 4 lanes. And then from Montreal to 78, it's 2 lanes. Through our information gathering, we have observed some initial corridor characteristics. It's a high pedestrian corridor, as we all know, and it's got many places with missing or narrow sidewalks, improper crossings, locations with non-functioning crossing equipment, lighting that's either blocked by trees or not oriented toward pedestrians. There's substantial school zone and bus drop-off and pickup activity, as well as MARTA bus stops and routes. And it's a high-speed corridor with locations of congestion, confusing lane transitions, and some sight distance concerns. The team is in process of developing recommendations for the corridor that include safer connectivity across all modes of transportation, intersection geometry and sight distance modifications, ensuring ADA compliance, reducing pavement width or introducing other measures to reduce speed, and enhanced lighting toward pedestrians. So that's where we are currently on the corridor study. And the last piece of the presentation focuses on the development of our safety priority network. So this is a risk-based approach that focuses on probability and consequence of crashes. So it's really thinking about future risk. It combines the opportunity for the crash likelihood, so based on things like traffic volume, geometry, speed, and the environment of the road itself, with the severity potential. It's powerful because it's proactive. You don't have to have a lot of crashes in order to identify a location that has a high probability for those crashes to happen in the future. So it's really good for larger systemic types of anticipation. It does have limitations in terms that it is very data intensive. You need traffic counts, roadway features, predictive models. And it's more complex and resource intensive, but we thought that that was the right approach for the work here in Clarkston. There are 6 risk factors that align with our project goals. Those risk factors include fatalities and serious injuries, crash rates, vulnerable road users, or people who are not protected by that vehicle, risk score, demographic considerations, and public feedback. So I've got a couple examples here. The first is an example for those vulnerable road users, or VRUs. In this case, we have a scale of 0 to 1, where there's no VRU crashes, that scores 0 points, all the way up to anything more than 1 VRU crash scores 1 point. And you can see based on the color coding in the map, those darker colors represent the places where the higher scores are, both at intersections and on the segments. The next example map is associated with community input. This is where people in the interactive map and in the meetings and in-person opportunities told us that they did not feel safe. And so the areas with the brightest yellow and pink colors are those places where the greatest intensity of unsafe locations are based on public feedback. So, to summarize, we've been busy. Where are we going from here? We are working through alternative development for the corridor study. We're in the process of developing our draft priority safety network. We are exploring countermeasures for those key locations where we identify some of those highest crash risks. We're identifying the countermeasures to be able to address them. We're going to be conducting a safety summit with key technical stakeholders to help shape policy direction for the plan. That's going to be coming up here in the next month. And then we'll be coming back to you for a second round of interviews and another council presentation on the corridor concepts for your input. Some additional key milestones include a draft plan at the end of March and community engagement on those draft recommendations, following that sometime probably in April or May. Additionally, as Larry mentioned, city staff will be keeping an eye out for any of those notice of funding opportunities or NOFOs, so that if there's something that comes out, we can adjust our schedule accordingly to make sure that the city is well prepared to be able to respond to those and to be able to propose on future implementation funding grants. So with that, I can wrap up and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much for all the work that you all have been doing. I've been seeing Mr. Kaiser out with the team walking around, so we really appreciate it. Council, do you have any questions at this time? Hearing none, thank you, and continue the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 4B, which is the presentation of the Greenway Trail Conceptual Design Status Update by Atkins Realis USA, Inc., and that's Mr. Kaiser again.
A short presentation before the Atkins team comes up. A lot of progress has been made since we began this back in October, November timeframe. What you're going to see tonight is 4 conceptual alignments. That's based upon the survey that was done. The survey has been completed. Extensive survey has been completed. And we're not asking for any recommendation, any final decision by council. We are here just to show you the alignments. We'll be back to you again after our second steering committee meeting. The first steering committee meeting is this Thursday. We're going to show the same information. We want their input, obviously, and then we'll have another meeting, and then we'll come back to council. There is a lot of work to still be done in a very short period of time. We're going to wrap this up sometime late this year. But what's important from implementation standpoint is back in March of last year, we submitted funding application for CDS. Of course, we don't know where that's at this point in time. Cross our fingers. We were put on the list of many projects to receive funding if Congress and the President does their thing. So that's important. $2 million, if we're able to get it, is great. But it's not going to be enough money. So sometime this year, when ARC has a call for projects, we will submit this project for federal funding through the Atlanta Regional Commission. That will make up a good portion of the remaining construction funds we need for phase 1. So what you're going to see tonight is concept design. We have not contracted with Atkins for the final design yet. We will do that or negotiate for that later this year when the project begins to wrap up for the concept work. So we'll come back to council at that point in time. So John is here. I did want to mention also, and I know Christina talked about this, we have had several conversations with Kimberly Horn and Atkins. There's actually going to be more of a sit-down meeting to talk about that coordination because the trail, as you know, begins or ends at Montreal Road at the creek. And that's part of the North Indian Creek Montreal corridor, Safe Streets for All corridor. And so we've been going back and forth about what that road section needs to look like ultimately when funding comes available. Everybody keeps asking the question, what comes first, the trail or the corridor work? Trail comes way before improvements to the corridor. The corridor is a $15 to $20 million project. We have to still do design work after this is all done. And so it's important that everybody understands that. We're looking at 231 before we get into the construction of that corridor, provided funding becomes available. This project could very well be in the construction by 2028, if not a little bit sooner than that. So I took up all of Atkins' time. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Larry. That was a very thorough overview, and thank you for the opportunity to be here, Mayor and Council. On Atkins' behalf, we feel very fortunate to be part of this project, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you on implementing, hopefully, the trail project. As Larry indicated, we're just in the beginning. We're doing the preliminary design work. If you go to the next slide briefly, I've been with Atkins for over 40 years. Joining me here is Rich Rohr. Rich and I have worked together on numerous trail projects throughout the metro Atlanta area together. More recently, we completed the Ivy Creek Trail up in Gwinnett. I'm not sure if you had a chance to get up there, but we just recently completed that project. Our scope of work is outlined in the next slide. There's a lot of words there. Basically, it's to start the early conceptual design work for the project. As Larry indicated, we have a steering committee meeting later this week. On Thursday, we're going to review the initial concept work that we've done on the trail project. In addition to that, preliminary alignments, we have 4 preliminary alignments that we will be reviewing with them. We're also tasked to provide cost estimating for the proposed improvements. We've been out to the site numerous times to look at the existing conditions on the site. We've had our survey groups go out over the last month in December and into January to complete a detailed survey of the corridor area. We will also Once the preferred trail alignment is selected, we'll also go out and stake that trail alignment in the field so that we can all walk it together if you'd like, and we can discuss the proposed trail and the impacts that it may have on the site and the proposed improvements. We'll also be doing renderings, 3D model, flyover, perspective sketches that will be useful in the public information meeting that we plan to have later this year. We're trying to coordinate that with Kimberly Horn to make sure that we can bring as many community residents to the public meeting. So we're trying to coordinate our meetings together so that we can have as much impact on and input on the proposed trail improvements. We are also have completed begun an environmental assessment of the corridor, the project corridor. We've done our wetlands study, we've done our archaeology study, we've done our history study. Those reports aren't complete. We've also done a phase 1 evaluation to make sure there's no hazardous materials on the site. All this is being done so we can prepare for the next phase as if it was a GDOT submittal, a full GDOT project, federally funded. So we're complying with GDOT's PDP process, which requires full environmental compliance. So we're also doing that. We've also reached out to DeKalb County and had discussions with them about the proposed trail and impact to the existing sewer line, if it's feasible to construct the trail over or on the trail, on the sewer line easement itself. So we've had some initial feedback on that. As I indicated, we are also working with Kimberly Horn on the proposed improvements for Montreal Road and what exactly that section looks like. And we plan on preparing a GDOT concept report that will be used for submittal to GDOT once the project takes the next step. Just recently, the city has approved a steering committee, a fairly extensive group of residents and property owners within the city. There's almost 20 folks that are identified here, or businesses that have been identified. We've been told that we should have a pretty full turnout this Thursday. We'll be reviewing the information that we're sharing with you this evening with them to get their guidance and input into the refinement of the design. Again, just so that you're aware of where the project area is, it's on the east side of Montreal Road. It's along the creek, the Peachtree Creek. We're looking at both sides of the creek to see what makes sense for the trail alignment. It also would encompass Friendship Park. The next slides are the conceptual alignments, the trail alignments. There are 4, as I said earlier. They have both pros and cons and implications to potential right-of-way or easements that would be required to construct the trail. There's 2 trails that terminate on the north side of the creek and 2 trail alignments that terminate on the south side of the creek at Montreal Road. The creek is shown in the black and yellow lines. The black areas are the boardwalk areas that we anticipate constructing to cross the creek. The creek is the blue center line with floodplain and floodway on either side. You can see Friendship Forest there in the green area. The orange areas are the sewer outfall and sewer lines that run through the site, as well as the white parcel lines that are indicated so we can determine whose property we might be encroaching upon. Again, there are 4 alignments. 2 alignments are more cost effective than the other 2 alignments. So there's an opportunity on On the north side of the creek where we're coming off Montreal, we go into a large boardwalk, we cross the creek, and then we meander on the south side of the creek, come back again to cross the creek once again. So there's 2 bridge crossings in this first alignment, which you can imagine is fairly expensive to have bridge crossings. But the idea with this particular alignment was to align for the future development that would occur on the west side of Montreal Road. So we would provide basically a mid-block crossing just north of the creek, and that this trail alignment would provide a direct alignment to the future phase of the trail. It also, as you can see, it provides connectivity to Friendship Forest and the property owners that are on either side of the creek.
Now, let me add something real quick. Hard to see, the yellow and the black. The black is where it crosses the creek, the yellow is the trail.
Yes.
And so I mean, it's hard when you're doing that, trying to speak, I just want to make sure everybody understands that. So sometimes it's kind of hard to see that on that.
And what we're working on now as well is what does that trailhead look like at Montreal Road, as well as those secondary trailheads that enter into the properties, the communities on either side of the creek. So we'll have a sketch that we can discuss with you further and show you a little bit here in this presentation. But again, this first concept, the alignment is located on the north side of the creek. It kind of meanders away from the creek to give a different perspective, to utilize as much of the site as possible, get outside the floodplain if we can. As I briefly mentioned, we did a flood study of the creek. With these proposed bridge crossings, we cannot create a impact to the flood elevation because that obviously would have a rise situation for the adjacent properties. So we had our hydrology group look at the flood study for the area. And with the existing conditions as they are, if you cross the creek, you are worsening the flood conditions for the creek, even if you stay above the 100-year flood elevation with the bridges. The existing condition is a marginal condition now with the existing flood and culvert size of Montreal Road. So the amount of flood water that passes through Montreal Road, underneath Montreal Road, if there's any additional improvements that are done on the east side of Montreal, you're creating a flood situation, an impact to the 100-year flood elevation. So what we've looked at is what would be required, what kind of improvements would be required to minimize that improvement. So we looked at the possibility of several alternatives, but we concluded that the most feasible alternative is the addition of additional box culvert in Montreal Road. So Montreal Road would have to be improved at the creek crossing to not have that 100-year rise condition. So obviously that'll add some additional costs to the project. You're gonna have to open the road and put in that additional box culvert to avoid the 100-year flood rise condition. If you go to the next concept, the trail alignment looks at the trail coming out on the south side of the creek, just south of the creek, the implications of that, where if you were to build that future phase on the north side, you would have to have some side path or bicycle improvement to allow people to move in that northern direction to cross at a mid-block crossing north of the creek. So, and again, this alternative looks at pushing the trail away from the creek as much as possible to minimize the flood impacts associated with the alignment. Obviously, some of the negatives or consequences of pushing it away from the creek are you don't see the creek as much as you would if you were closer to it. So basically, the alternative that we've provided to this south side alignment is kind of moving the trail a little bit closer to the creek to provide those better views of the creek. Again, in this alignment, there is only one bridge crossing, so a bridge, again, is very expensive. It helps to minimize that cost. Next slide. This is the second alternative with the crossing on the south side of the creek, future crossing. So again, you would have to go north of Montreal Road and then eventually cross to the future alignment. But it pushes the trail closer towards the creek. It's primarily on grade. There is, again, that one bridge crossing that's roughly around where the city recently completed some stabilization of the creek. There was a nice improvement that was done with some proposed rock treatment of the creek bank, and that crossing is fairly close to that location. We thought it was aesthetically a nice improvement that the city had made, and it's also a fairly close crossing to Friendship Forest, so people that would come down through Friendship Forest would be able to see the bridge and cross at that particular location. One of the things that we tried to do with all four alignments is to make the connectivity make sense in a way that you're not having to backtrack. For example, if you lived on the west side of the creek, you didn't have to go north to come all the way back south to go to Montreal Road. So some basic things that we're trying to look at with the alignment. We are trying to stay off the sewer line as much as possible so that in the future, if the sewer is improved, that they're not tearing out the trail and the beautiful improvements that you made. So we're trying to look at that future cost as well. Again, this is the last of the alignments. Again, it's on the north side of the future connectivity. The phase 2 is on the north side of the creek, but this alignment is pushed down further towards the creek, and it only has one bridge crossing compared to the earlier concept where we were crossing the creek twice. Again, it can be a preference thing. How often you want to cross the creek or how many times, how close you want to get to the creek. But trying to balance cost with these alignments and make sure that they're practical and they're affordable within the budget that you would have to construct a creek, I think all plays into how many crossings that are proposed. Again, we've identified in the four alignments the potential easements and right-of-way property acquisition that would be required with the four alignments. In some cases, some of those alternatives, there's more impacts than others. If you go to the next slide, on Montreal Road, we've initially prepared a concept. We've reviewed that concept with Kimberly Horn. The concept for Montreal Road, if you go to the next slide, please, is if the trailhead is on the north side of the creek, which this exhibit shows, again, it provides that direct connectivity to the future trail alignment. If you're familiar with this area, you know that there's a fairly large opening area on that property that could be utilized for a nice recreation, passive open space if you could work with the property owner on it. The section for Montreal Road, what we've looked at is two 11-foot lanes, a 5-foot bike path, or bike lane, excuse me, a 5-foot bike lane adjacent to the travel lane, and then a grass strip that is outside of the creek crossing. That grass strip is roughly 3 feet wide, and then a 10-foot side path along Montreal Road on both sides. Again, we've had an initial meeting with Kimberly Horn. They're going to give us what their future design is for Montreal Road, and we'll incorporate that into our design. We just prepared some initial thoughts for consideration, basically what we think that section would be, and that was also helping us determine the cost of the culvert improvements associated with Montreal Road. We had to kind of we had to determine the extent of the improvements of Montreal Road, the width of future potential width of Montreal Road. So in worst case scenario, I think, with the addition of the bike lanes and the 10 to 12 foot side path, that would be, for this initial preliminary planning, that would be a worst case scenario. We've also proposing a crosswalk at that location where the future connections to the side, to the future trail would be, and we're recommending that at this time a rectangular rapid flashing beacon would be proposed at that location. There, as you may know, there is one that's just north of the creek crossing on Montreal Road. But based on the number of trips that we foresee crossing, pedestrian trips crossing Montreal Road, if you have more than 20 trips within an hour, you can do an upgrade of that. You can apply for a signal warrant on that location, but right now at this point we're looking at a rapid flashing beacon and it carry that cost. The next slide is, again, at the location of Montreal Road, we're trying to build on some of the improvements that you've already made in your downtown area. You have constructed some wood trellises. What we're thinking that these trellises might be a more permanent material, something that might be a metal material. But we're looking at, in addition to the overhead trellis, utilizing the city emblem in the side of the panels, and that would provide some shade for that trailhead location. Again, the trailhead location would be located off of the side path on Montreal Road. The future location would either be on the north or south side of the creek, yet to be determined, but the idea is to provide an entrance, a gateway treatment for the trail, so people know that they're entering the trail. It's a visible access point. We're also looking at having minor trailhead locations at those property owners and kind of tapering this back to less improvements, but still provide an entrance way from those property owners into the trail so that it's more than just a concrete trail that is through the woods. People will know there'll be some benches, trash receptacles, as well as some landscape planting that would be proposed. So you could see the lower slides, the slide to my right on the ends. We're just looking again conceptually at how to incorporate the city's logo into that element. And through your materials that you've used in your downtown, the granite columns, that material can be used also. So you start to build a consistency with the materials that are being used in your downtown, so it starts to all be more uniform and make a larger statement. Next slide. Again, some of the elements, some of the site furnishing materials that would be located on the trailhead, as well as along the trail. There's trash receptacles, benches, some signage, so it gives a direction to people that are going to be walking along the trail so they know where they are. As I mentioned earlier in the four concepts, there is some proposed boardwalk that will take us up towards the bridge elevations. Again, getting the bridges up to a certain elevation so that they don't have an impact on the existing flood condition. Those boardwalks are proposed to be a concrete boardwalk, not a wood boardwalk. Again, we're looking at longevity and long-term maintenance of the proposed improvements, and we want to make sure it doesn't become a liability for the city after a certain number of years, 10 or 15 years, you're out there replacing wood because it's in a flood situation, and it holds up for, concrete can hold upwards of 50 years. So we've used, as I mentioned, we've used this material in Gwinnett and in other communities as well, in Canton, and we feel it's a good investment for certainly trails that are in a floodplain, floodway condition. So Next slide. Again, we're fairly close to completing our phase one of our contract currently. We're moving into the second phase two, the design development. As we talked about, we'll be refining these concepts. We'll be getting input from the stakeholders and the steering committee. We'll have meetings with the local community as well to get their input. And we'll be refining the sketches. We'll be preparing additional flyovers and staking the center line, as I said, so we can get out and walk it with you to get your input on the proposed trail. And then once we do that, we'll finalize our plans, finalize our concept report, and get it prepared for the public meeting that we'll have later in April or May, depending on the final schedule with Kimberly Horn, and get it ready for future submission to GDOT or additional funding to hopefully get the trail through its next phase and implement it. So thank you again very much for the opportunity to be here with you. We're very excited to be part of this process with you, and it's been a pleasure to work with Larry and the rest of the city staff. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, did you have any questions or none? Councilwoman Bell?
So I have one question. So thank you for the presentation. Can you help me understand the without base flood elevation? I know that the regulation comes from FEMA, and there's a 1% chance that it won't elevate. But when I was looking at one of the scenarios, there was a trail going right over it, and it usually says, one of the restrictions is no development on or around it.
Well, you cannot impact. You can impact a flood, but you have to get a CLOMA or a letter of map revision. And that is a very extensive process. We want to avoid that process. So any crossing of the creek, any bridge crossing of the creek, no matter what alternative it is, we have those 4 alternatives. One of the alternatives has 2 crossings of the creek. But any crossing of the creek will have an impact on the existing 100-year flood elevation, just because of the existing conditions, the flows that are coming down through the creek now. It's essentially, it's like capacity, it's over capacity now with the size of the culvert on Montreal Road. So to be able to minimize that 100-year impact, we have to let the flow pass through faster through Montreal Road to be able to pass. Now, we also look downstream to see if we put in that box culvert on Montreal, will we have any adverse impact downstream, which obviously we don't want to have. And our preliminary study indicates that it will not have any impact downstream by adding that culvert and letting the flow pass through. So I think if you're going to cross the creek, the bottom line is if you're going to cross the creek, you're going to be impacting Montreal Road and adding in a culvert to minimize the 100-year flood.
Did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. So this last one.
Okay.
So the last question is around the without base flood elevation and the insurance. So you talked a little bit about cost. What I didn't see from the 3 scenarios is the cost benefit analysis on all of them, but that could be further down the project.
Yeah.
But that would be helpful because I'm just thinking about the property owners around it and insurance.
Right. Yeah, we're tasked to do the cost assessment of the construction of the trail. We're also looking at the cost implications of improving the road. As far as the cost implications with individual property owners, again, we're trying to minimize that so we don't. Hopefully, there would not be that cost. I mean, if we were to look and say we don't want to add the culvert, and what is the implications associated with the property, we can look at that more thoroughly and provide that as an alternative to you. I don't have that answer now, but we can certainly get with our flood staff, flood risk and emergency staff, and FEMA staff, and we can work up with the engineering cost scenario.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, Councilman
Thank you, Madam
Perkins?
Mayor. Again, thanks for the presentation. And so I may have missed something, but earlier in the presentation, you mentioned you were trying to determine something about the cab, and if you could actually build across a sewer line. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, we approached DeKalb County to discuss with them crossing the sewer line with the trail. it is they'll let you build it along or crossing over the sewer line easement. But the implications are if you do build it and they have to come back and make improvements, they're going to tear out your trail and it'll be at your cost to replace the trail. That's the feedback that we've had so far to date.
Okay. So is this, 'cause in the original designs that we looked at, was this a concern that was brought up originally? This may be a question for Larry. The sewer line crossing, 'cause this is the first,
No, we always knew it was going to run parallel, on top of, or cross.
okay,
One of the three options.
Right.
gotcha.
That's always been the case.
And we're trying to minimize
Right.
any on top of and minimize the crossings
Right.
of the sewer line easement. So we're minimizing the future implications of if that sewer line would need to be replaced.
We always contemplated that from day
Okay.
one.
So the implication isn't we need to get DeKalb's permission in order to be able to cross it. The implication is it's permissible, we would just be liable if we damage it.
Correct.
Okay, that was what I was
Correct.
trying to make sure I understood.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Three real quick items.
Okay.
Spur connections to the apartment complexes, Wildwood Creek and Clarkston Station.
Okay.
So that's where you see those yellow lines crossing through. That's very important. Second thing is some amenities that John did not talk about. There'll be other amenities, lighting, gardens, so a whole bunch of other things along the corridor. And now there's a third item, I don't remember what the third item is, but there's a lot more to be talked about and spoke about at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, we will now, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation. You guys are doing an amazing job. We'll move to public comments, and I think the agenda jumped to next week, but we're going to let you know that any member of the public may address questions or comments to the city council referencing only agenda items after the mayor and council have had the opportunity to discuss the agenda item. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments. And so we'll move on to the next item, and all of our presenters, you are free to go. Thank you so much. And that would be item A, and that's to discuss the proposed text amendment to the City of Clarkston zoning ordinance, Appendix A, Article 2, to amend the requirement for written notice to adjacent and nearby property owners. City Manager. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. The only thing I have to add that we are changing to our staff would be sending out these notifications. I left a little postcard for all you to review. So instead of sending letters and envelopes, we're going to start sending out stamped postcards. So when people get it, they automatically know what it is. It says notice of zoning hearing, then it puts all the detailed information on there. We've heard from citizens, and they say they think this would be something they're more apt to read and understand quickly. So we're making that change. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Okay, and also this is the updated document, correct?
That is the updated document. There's a few
Right.
minor changes from the city attorney's office.
Okay. I just want to make sure council knew that this is the updated document that Mr. Edwards gave to us prior to the meeting. With that, are there any questions from the council at this time on this particular item?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Moore?
So the original way of doing this is with certified mail. And then in the ordinance, it says proof of mailing shall be provided to the city manager. How do you prove you mailed it?
So on this, staff would be doing it ourselves. We could take pictures, we could run reports from believe the stamp machine could potentially run reports. So there's a way to document it if you would like us to continue documenting that and saving it in the zoning files.
Good.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, we'll open this to the public. At this time, does the public have any comments or questions on this? Did we have anyone signed up? And if anyone in the audience now would like to speak on this particular item, you can do so at this time. With no public comments, we will make sure in terms of this item, we've had the public hearing at this meeting. So for the council meeting, this item could be a consent agenda item. Is that correct? Okay, council, is this something that you would like to have as consent agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. So Clerk Mitchell, this is also consent agenda item. We'll move to B, which is to discuss updating the alcohol license requirements to allow established alcohol license owners the right to change location within the city and be able to get the required alcohol license, and that is Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item came to my attention a couple months ago when we approved a alcohol licensed owner to sell the establishment and the new owner be able to get a license. And when I looked at it, I noticed that if you are here and you are a licensed alcohol owner and you move, you don't have the right to get a new alcohol license. So I wanted to be able to expand that service to grandfathered locations. We do have a limited number. I think we have 5 in the city, and we have kind of said that's enough for what we're working with. So right now, I did speak to the city attorney, and he has drafted or made some modifications to the existing ordinance which is ordinance, I want to say 240, section 3. What was it on? Right, section 3-70. And if you look at it, it says a grandfathered license of a license for the sale of distilled spirits by the package may be renewed annually and may be transferred to a new qualified license. A new qualified license licensee that obtains a grandfathered license pursuant to the subsection shall be subject to all of the requirements and limitations of a grandfathered license. A grandfathered license shall not expand its operation or facility without prior approval from City Council. But if you look at C, 3-70C, you can see some strike-throughs because previously you were not even grandfathered under Section A upon the terms and conditions set forth in the article. Grandfather license as described in subsection A may be renewed at the same location only. A grandfather license shall not expand its operation or facility. But the modification basically reads in the new revised section 3-70C says a grandfather license may be transferred to a new qualified location pursuant to section 3-7G of this chapter. After such date, licensees shall sell distilled spirits by the package may not be transferred to another location. So basically what we've done is I asked the city manager and I asked the planning and zoning director as well as our city clerk and our city manager, would this change, interrupt what we've already set forth in our laws? And I was told no, because the zoning permits the locations, and if there's a location that does not approve of alcohol sales in that area, it can't be done anyway. So I was just coming to you guys to see if this was something that we could change going forward. And there is no time frame. It's just gonna be the same, consistent with selling a business and getting a new license. So if you own the liquor store and you want to move, as long as you're following the zoning, we're going to allow it not to get 5 more on the same street. We're not allowing more, but allowing movement. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Council. Are there questions on this particular item? Okay. Yes, Councilman Perkins.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on what, so you're wanting someone to be able to pass their liquor license along to someone, say if I own a business, have a liquor license, I sell my business, somebody comes in, that liquor license passes on to them? Or you're saying if I buy a business but then decide to move to a different address, the liquor license would follow me to the new address?
Basically, if you've owned that liquor store for 15 years in that same location and you want to move, you can move.
Okay.
But right now you can't. Because if you move Well, your license won't allow you to move right now. So what we're doing is giving the existing alcohol licensees the right to relocate in the city and get a new license.
And retain their license.
They have to get a new one.
Oh, they have to get a new
They have to get the license, go with the location.
So would this allow someone to open up a new,
We passed a law already saying we do not allow new alcohol license right now. So what?
well, we don't
we're-
allow new locations, but this right here, my understanding is, as long as the total number of licenses remain the same.
No, it
Right.
says, if you look at Section A, it says effective July 3rd, 2016, the city no longer issues new licenses for the sale of distilled spirits by the bottle in that one area.
That is correct. So the only thing we're doing is allowing a grandfathered liquor store to move if they want to change their location. Meaning if you're on Ponce and you want to move to Brockett, you can and get a new license. Right now, they cannot. They cannot.
I understand that part. I think my thing is, Stephen, it looks like you're.
He's about to interject.
Okay.
You ready to
I'm
go?
just waiting until
Go.
y'all are
Come on,
ready.
I see that
Okay.
double Dutch
Yeah,
look
well-
right there. Jump in, come on.
This is not a recommendation. I don't have one. This is y'all's policy. What we have here as a draft is an ordinance that would allow two things that are not allowed now. One is for a new qualified licensee, the individual, to take over an existing package liquor license. So that could be at the same place, different person. The other thing it would allow is for the licensee to relocate within the city, subject to our other regulations such as zoning and distance restrictions. So if, you see that, those are separately mentioned in B and C.
Right.
So if one of those appeals and the other doesn't to a majority, then you could do just one of them. What I did here that I think and hope I carried out what the vice mayor wanted me to do is to have this mirror what we did with packaged alcohol, beer, and wine.
Correct.
So in 2016, the council at that time passed an ordinance that basically was wanting all those uses to slowly go away. And then a future council was confronted with some hardships for the people involved with that, decided to loosen the rules. And now this would basically do the same thing for alcohol. There would still be a maximum of for a hard liquor, there would still be a maximum of 5 in the city. Hope that's helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
All
It's
right.
essentially expanding, it's addressing the issue that we ran into, because I think I was on that council where we ran into the hardship, it was a grandfather in this case, okay. We don't have any concerns about movement, because it still would be allowed within the applicable zoning district in terms of the change, so we would lose some control of that location. Is there,
Well, it still has to fit within the zoning and the requirements. So if they're trying to move and it's like 2 blocks from the next liquor store, they can't move.
no, I understand that part. I'm
Right.
just saying this
Yeah.
does, like, right now we have a set number.
That stays the same.
It would stay
Yeah.
set, but they're
Yeah.
in set locations.
We don't have set locations. The code sets the locations. What we're governing here is where the ability to move. Right now, they cannot. You can sell.
So let me, sorry, I want to be real clear with that. So
Okay.
what this is doing, and I understand all the code stuff, what this is doing though is now, so right now we have a little bit of control. Because liquor stores aren't going to move, they can be passed down, they're in the locations they're in, right? What this will do, while it will still have to fall into zoning codes, it will allow for movement into locations as long as they qualify for everything else, they can change locations. And so that's what we're opening up, is right now we know where they are. We know whatever issues or positives or negatives come in with that. And so this is going to open it up to where they could shift to a new location regardless. And so I'm just making sure,
That's correct.
okay. I've said this has been, come up in the past where we've wanted to reduce the number of liquor stores. We've said too many, so I'm just bringing that up for discussion since it's been something that's come up in the past. But
Okay.
if we're all cool with it, then.
So, Mr. Quinn, let's make sure we're on the same page with this. You said 5. That's no more than 5, right? Roughly.
I haven't investigated
Yes,
how many
right.
there are, but
It's-
this would not allow the total to go up.
Okay, so the total will never go up. They can move. They will have to stay within the boundaries based on the code, correct?
Right, and there's two facets to that. One is that the proposed location has to allow liquor store as a use.
Right.
The other is that the distance restrictions we have are going to apply. So you can't be too near to a place of worship or a place of education or another liquor store.
Okay. All right, council, do you have any other questions? Nope. Nope. Okay. I know this is not going to be on consent, but I'm going to ask, is this consent?
Okay, no.
No. Okay, so it's not on consent. Okay. We'll have this on our agenda. And are there any updates or changes to the document as it is? Are we good? Okay. All right. I want to make sure I brought that up. We'll move to C. Did we have any public who would like to speak on this particular item? Did we have anyone signed up for it? Clerk Mitchell? No. Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is C, and that is to discuss a resolution authorizing the reappointment of the city auditor, Malden and Jenkins, for the fiscal year 2025 audited financial statement to be audited during fiscal year 2026, and to consider the 2025 audit engagement letter, and that is the city manager.
Yes, ma'am. As you have in front of you, Malden and Jenkins has presented their proposed audit engagement letter for two things. Well, for completion of the 2025 audit within the 2026 fiscal year. They have presented the audit scope and objectives, which have not changed since previous engagement with them. The administration does recommend approving the city engaging with them for completion of the 2025 audit. It is our intention toward the later on in this year to present a RFP for solicitation of audit services. They have been our auditor for a long time. And it's prudent for cities to put that service out to bid at some point. We don't want to do that this early on in the year and in the middle of an audit process. Council already knows that we are a little bit behind on our 2024 audit. We are working with Malden and Jenkins to get that completed within the next month or so, and we will go straight into engaging with them on the 2025 audit. Our every intention is to complete the 2025 audit for submittal to the state by June 30th.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. At this time, Council, do you have any questions? And I just want to make sure I'm clear too, because I see the 60,000 amount. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, because we will meet the single audit requirement for 2025. That's for engagement with Kimberly Horn and the expenditure of those federal funds in excess of the required amount. So the audit, not only will we complete the 2025 regular audit, annual audit, but we'll have to do the single audit as well.
Okay, and Councilwoman Bell, you had a comment?
No, just don't say consent.
Okay, consent, all right. We'll let the public, anyone from the public would like to speak on this item? Do we have anyone signed up? Anyone from the audience would like to speak? Hearing none, that is closed. Is this something for consent?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay, consent, okay. And that is also consent, Clerk Mitchell?
Okay.
Okay, We'll move on to our next item, which is D, and that's to discuss a bid award and professional services agreement for the most responsive and responsible bidder for the 2026 Milam Park Pool Management Contract, Aquatics Management, Inc. contractor. City Manager?
Yes, ma'am. I will defer to Parks and Rec Director Michael Duncan.
Good evening, Council, City Manager. We solicited bids for our 2006, competitive bids for our 2006 pool contract, contract. We received 3 bids that came in, and they went through the evaluation process. And after the evaluation process, we selected Aquatics Management, and they were our most responsive and responsible bidder. Aquatics Management happened to be our company that we used last year. So they went through the process again this year and was selected. We sent the terms and contract to the city attorney's office. It's basically the same contract it was last year, but we want to make sure that none of the language or the terms has changed. We budgeted $80,000 for this contract, and the bid came in at $79,000. So they fell right within our budgeted amount. And so we're asking the council to approve this contract for our 2026 pool season.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. And the city attorney will have an opportunity to review this before council meeting to ensure that if there are any changes that we need to know, he will notify us, correct? All right, thank you. Council, do you have any questions at this time?
I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor?
You stated that your budget was 80,000. What was what did we pay last year?
78.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, Councilwoman Bell?
Yeah, so with that increase, Mr. Duncan, I think that there were certain constituents that came out around the aquatic management company and some of the capacity that they had. Have they fixed all of those challenges, or are those related to in this contract?
What you said?
There were capacity concerns from constituents around not having enough people, and they actually came to our meeting and discussed that with us.
Last year?
Yes.
Yeah, because we didn't have any issues with capacity last year. That was the year before last.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't have any issues last year with capacity. We were
How many
fine.
lifeguards did they have?
They had 4 lifeguards last year. Okay. And this year they're going to have 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for bringing that point up. Any other questions from the council? Hearing none. From the public, any comments from the public? No one signed up, and you're free in the audience if you have any. Because this, right now, he needs to review this, so I want to make sure in terms of keeping this as an agenda item. Okay? All right, thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Duncan. We'll move on to the next item, which is E, and that's to discuss a proposal for governmental finance services as provided by Sumter Local Government Consulting Services for performance and oversight of finance department services, and that will be City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. As you know, the full-time finance director position became vacant towards the end of October of last year. Even before that vacancy, we were having some challenges within the finance department scope and function because there had been significant changeover and transition within that department for the last 2 years or so. And so we have been working diligently to manage day-to-day operations to complete the 2024 audit. Now we are at the point where we are needing to close out 2025 and begin that audit immediately upon 2024 audit completion. And so in consideration of that vacancy and the scope of work that we need to complete all of these tasks and functions, we thought it beneficial to have, instead of bringing in one person with a finance director scope, to bring in a team of people, right, that can meet the needs of the full finance department, in addition to the two staff accountants that we have. We have Mr. Warren here tonight, and he's able to kind of speak to some of the things that we've talked about and that his company can provide for the city based on the needs that we have presented.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Warren Hutmacher. Just as a matter of background, I'm president of Sumter Local Government Consulting. My background is in city management, so I was the former city manager for Avondale Estates, Norcross, Dunwoody, Johns Creek, and Hutto, Texas. Started the firm in about 2021, and we are providing what we call embedded services, which is what the city manager described. And what that generally is that we're working currently with the city of Pine Lake and the city of Stone Mountain to provide a similar service. And so we've got an experienced team, mostly made up of former finance directors, with expertise well beyond what you would expect if y'all put the position out for recruitment, generally based on the budget and the types of salaries that the city this size would offer for that position. And so what we've been able to do is develop a scope of services that generally goes along the lines of all of the accounting and finance functions that you have that we would be able to handle. And we would put a team of folks on that. The advantages to that, one is the expertise of the levels of the team. Secondly is from a consistency standpoint, you wouldn't be dependent on somebody that comes, maybe 2 months later they quit, and you are literally left with nothing. And so what we do is, if we lose someone on our team, that's my problem to backfill that. And we have enough people on our team to be able to more than manage the needs of the city of Clarkston. So you really have kind of, I hate the term, but it's true, it's kind of one throat to choke, so that if something's going wrong, it's my fault, and we've got to solve that for y'all. And so the team is made up as a set of former finance directors. One of them is a CPA. One of them has 25 years experience as a finance director. Another one's around 20 years of experience in public finance, and the other one about 10 years, and worked in the metro area. So I really like the team that we have put together. We've done a good job for those other two cities, and we'd love to work with the city of Clarkston. I think it's a really efficient model that will get y'all a higher level of service for around the same cost as it would take when you consider the salary and benefits and downtime that you have when you only have one person as that finance director. Also, if they go on vacation, they're gone for that time period, where we'll just backfill with somebody else on our team. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you very much, Council. City Manager, you wanted to make a point there.
Yes, ma'am. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Warren just presented, I know the disposition of our council when it comes to contracted positions. And so to me, this opportunity provides twofold opportunity, really, to be redundant. This gives us the level of expertise and knowledge to get those things accomplished that we really have to get accomplished. They are time sensitive. Specifically, completion of the 2024 audit and closeout of 2025, so that we can prepare for that audit. The other thing is that we have kind of gone around in this, I guess, orbital status of not necessarily having a good hold on the financial, I don't want to say condition of the city, but specifics, right? I need to be able to point to a number, specifically within our general fund reserve. I need to be able to point to, to know with some heightened assurity, right, that our revenues and expenditures are actually posted in the general ledger in the right places in the right manner. So we need we have some cleanup to do, and we have some analysis to do. So having this team to come in not only provides that higher executive level analysis and reporting function that the finance director brings to the table, but also provides that kind of on the ground within operations kind of scope that we also need. And in the meantime, we get to determine whether this particular model works for us, right? As opposed to having a finance director who comes, leaves, takes information, you know, that kind of thing. And so this is not throwing a full-time position out of the window at this point. This is having an opportunity to get us where we need to be, to provide the information to council and to my office that we need to provide, and then to also look at whether this particular model may be more beneficial, right, for the city long term. We've done some analysis from financial perspective, and I'll present a scenario. So our current audit, well, our 2025 audit is due June 30th. If we bring on this service with a team of people from February to June, right, and we've had the finance position vacant since January of this budget cycle, then we actually save $8,000. Right, but we get to where we need to be. And at the end of this period, we can determine what's the course moving forward. We've already put the finance position out there. That's one thing we wanted to do, to show the council that we've not totally yet given up on the person, but we have to get those resumes in to know the scope of the, you know, whether we get applicants with the scope of expertise that we need. So it's I know I'm saying a lot, but this is something that we really need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Perkins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am 100% in favor of this. Honestly, probably my highest concern for the last couple of years has been the financial state of the city, and making sure that we get to a place where we know where the money is. I did have one question on that. As a part of this, do we know where we are in terms of just updating our software that we're using for account management?
Yes. So every vendor, we've met with the top 3 vendors. What I do know about software transition, integration, implementation is that we need to have a balanced set of books when we transfer, and so we're not there yet.
Okay.
And so the minute we get, like, if we get through 24, we could do it 2 ways. Now we get through 24, have that balanced set of books to integrate into this new system, but then that throws us off of our timeline for completing the 2025 audit. So my recommendation is to get through 24, meet the deadline for 25, and then do implementation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
that is still very much a part of our scope for this year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the other piece too that I think you alluded to is we're also looking at if we fail to meet those audits, we can lose eligibility for state and federal funding. And so it's not just the numbers on the page, it's the numbers that are implied if we don't get this stuff figured out. So anyway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes, thank you. So I got a quick technical question. How many current active contracts do y'all have?
We have 2 active contracts.
Okay. And then how many, I know that this contract that is before is just 3 days a week, right? And so how many people is that?
It depends. Yeah, we've got, we're going to have 5 people that will be available, with multiple clients, but we'll, have enough folks on the ground to be able to get done what we need to get done here.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilman Moore?
This is a really interesting concept. It sounds like a great idea. Did you base your business model? I mean, you formed this cabal of services. Did you base that on some other model somewhere that you saw, or is this your concept?
Yes, it's a great question. So, yeah, it is my concept, but it's based off of things that have been done for years in local government. And so when we started the city of Dunwoody, we created at that time what was called a split service model. And so when the initial cities like Sandy Springs and Milton and Johns Creek incorporated, they did one vendor and provided services in a number of areas. And so Dunwoody, we split that into 4 areas because we didn't want just sort of one. It was a lot of risk when you have one vendor that's in charge of everything. And so we split it into 4 categories. So there was finance, IT, marketing, and community development, and 5 actually in public works. And so it's a little bit based off of that model, but on a much smaller scale, and basically meant for smaller cities. And the impetus, just kind of give you more information than you asked for, is we noticed a trend. We also do a lot of executive search work, and we noticed a trend that is very difficult to hire good finance directors at the salaries that people are customarily accustomed to. It's not a real word. Accustomed to paying. And so, as we talk to clients, and they say, "Well, we just did our search," just similar to what Shaquia was saying, and we're striking out at the price that we think we can afford. And so that really cemented the business model to say, if I could hire those people at a much higher salary, but spread them out over a couple of different clients, we could really create a lot of value for customers.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
My question is for the
Yes.
city manager. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Basically, I like it. I think that that's what we need. Nothing is going to fall through the cracks. But how will this line up with the 2 staff members that are already employed full-time? They're going to continue their...
They will continue in their current functions. They know their day-to-day functions, and they are operating within those. We've just not been able to get very much accomplished beyond that kind of day-to-day scope. And it's hard to catch up when you're doing day-to-day and trying to, catch up with those things that have been, not been done or not happened in the past. So, and yes, we have already talked to them about this model. When we brought Scott Akins in to help with 2020 foreclosure, he kind of performed those tasks that were not being done day to day, and they were used to gather information for him to pull that audit document together. But yes, they are operating within their same scope.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No? Okay. Thank you, and I'll entertain it. Do we have anyone that wanted to speak on this particular item?
I just have a quick question for Warren, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Mayor. We'll be able to start this agreement at a mutually decided upon time, right?
Yes.
After council's approval or not of the item next week. We can
Right.
talk about the time.
I think as I understood it, y'all were going to meet again on February 5th or 3rd?
We meet the 3rd.
3rd, and potentially approve the contract on that date?
Right.
Yeah, we would be prepared to start a few days after that.
Okay.
Okay, good. With that, council, is this something for consent or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, consent? Consent? Okay, all right, consent. We'll move on to the next item, which is to discuss a resolution approving an agreement for interim city clerk services with Sumter Local Government Consulting Services and appoint Emmy Neatham.
Needhammer.
Needhammer, okay, as interim city clerk and city manager.
Yes, ma'am. As you all are aware, this fine lady to the left of me will be vacating her position as city clerk on this Friday. And so the city clerk position is a chartered position which comes with a employment scope that is high-level executive, is a high-level executive position that services the city managers, the city council, staff departments. You all know the work that the city clerk has to operate within, and so to minimize gap in service, we want to go ahead and bring in an interim. We've already put the position out and have started to get resumes and applications for the position. But again, until we can find a suitable candidate, we don't want the work to go undone. And your city manager can do it, but will not.
All right.
I won't survive if I have to do it.
I know.
Thank you. And
Okay.
so we brought Sumter back again. They are pretty much leading in the industry in our area. He's presented us already with a candidate. Her name is Emmy Neatshammer, and she was actually it's on that document I just gave you in the back. The last 2 pages is her resume. But she actually had been I knew her from my late city clerk days. She was actually the city clerk for the city of Chamblee. Yes, and so is very familiar with this kind of work. She served in the capacity of interim for the city of Stone Mountain too, which a lot of their function is much like the function of the city clerk here. And so we believe that we can get the work accomplished.
Okay, you're right. Thank you.
Did I take everything, Warren? I'm sorry. I didn't let you
No, I was
speak.
just, I was going to reintroduce myself and go through the whole speech, but
No,
maybe
no,
I don't want to do
that's
that.
okay.
Be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Okay. No. Do we have any questions from the council? No, council?
I have a question.
Yes.
Work day. This person works 3 days or 5? I didn't see it.
It's not in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just to get the job done. And so I think the idea is to be on site as much as possible, probably in the beginning, full-time, and then they would be on site probably probably more like 4 days a week, and then work remotely any other time it's necessary to get the job done. They'll be at all your meetings.
Okay. Councilwoman Bell?
So,
Well, I'll let the city manager and
That's,
Warren discuss this.
Yeah, that's
because
day to day.
I think,
Yeah.
but there's a reason why that question was posed. Yes.
Yeah, so, just to be transparent, Mr. Warren, there has been previous issue, right? We're in the service capacity, you know that, and we are front facing. And so unlike a lot of larger cities that have staffers who do, 1 or 2, 3 functions, right? Or do functions within a specific category of work, right? We are a small city, and so everybody that we have on staff, we need them to be present and on the ground within the city and within operations. And so that's why I talked to you earlier today about, what that will look like. We've found that it's difficult for us to manage a lot of remote access work. That's because we're building a lot of our staff is not, I don't want to say seasoned, but we've not been here in the city for a long time. I've only been here 10 months. And so to be able to put my hands on a person or during a process is more beneficial for me, because it kind of takes away that time to communicate by email, wait for that person to see an email, and then come back with the response. So initially, we're going to need some presence.
Yes.
And then we can reevaluate as we go.
Yeah, and that's the intent, is that,
Okay.
the default is to be on site, and then the exception would be if there's something that came up where they needed to flex some hours and work
Okay.
remotely. So we understand the need of the city, we understand the complexities of the position and the culture that y'all have here as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Can this also, from the public, anybody signed up? No? Okay. Can this be consent as well? Okay. And on that note, I want to say thank you very much, Clerk Mitchell, since this will be your last meeting. We appreciate you and all the work that you've been doing for the city. So thank you, and we wish you well in your future endeavors. Okay. We'll move on. We'll move on to discuss G, which is to discuss the recommendation for Parks and Recreation SPLOST 2 projects at Milam Park. City Manager?
Yes, ma'am. We'll turn this over to Mr. Duncan, and I'll interject as we need to, if that's okay with you, Michael.
Yes. Good evening again, Mayor, Council, City Manager. As you know, our Parks and Recreation Master Plan is ongoing, and we anticipate completing that plan May or June of '26. And so really trying to get ahead of it. We have programs and activities that we're planning at Milam Park, and we're looking at possibly trying to get some work done. For example, we had our fall youth soccer this past year. We played on the field, but the conditions are okay, but the field needs some improvement. And we have our spring soccer coming up, and that will start in March. And we already have about 10 people signed up already. So we're looking for some improvements on the fields, as well as we have pavilions that we're renting out that needs to be upgraded. The tennis court that needs to be resurfaced. And then we have the restrooms that desperately need to be upgraded. And so, and then the major project that we're looking at is the upper field, the soccer field. We installed the lights there, but our turf, the field, the sod needs to be either upgraded or replaced. And our suggestion is to put turf there so we can have multiple programs without having a high cost in maintenance. And so what we're asking the council, I know we were trying to wait until the Parks Master Plan is completed before we tried to do some work. But also in lieu of us planning for World Cup events that we're looking to have at Milam Park in June, we'd like to start some work now and solicit some competitive bids on the items that I mentioned to try to see if we can improve the park. And so we're asking for the council to give us consent to be able to at least solicit some bids for it, and then we can bring that back to you before we initiate any projects at the park.
Okay. Any questions at this time? Okay. Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on the recommendation for using, I'm assuming artificial turf versus grading the field so that it helps with water damage, is there a reason we didn't want to go with the more natural thing? Is it just the maintenance side of it, or what else involved with that?
Yeah, mainly the maintenance side of it. It makes it easier for us as we don't have a lot of field space in the city, so having the turf allows us to be able to go from program to program without having to stop to do the maintenance on the field. So if we have soccer program, adult and youth, flag football programs, and then also events. And so as I mentioned, the World Cup, we're looking to have watch parties at the park. And so the turf will hold up, artificial turf will hold up a lot better than the sod, and we don't have to stop all the time to try to maintain that particular part of the park.
Okay. And we looked at damage, like ways, you know, when damage happens to, because there's been a couple places where I've seen that turf is great, because you don't have to mow it.
Right.
But then there's, well, I won't name names, I won't put some parks on blast. There are some parks where it's happened where flooding happened, there's, you know, improper drainage was done. It actually, I think, might even be more difficult to repair than just patching a hole. Have y'all done any cost comparison on that?
It'd be beneficial for us because we also have the creek there, and we looked at the drainage to be able to run down to the creek, so that would definitely help us as far as maintenance. Up today, I went to the park, and we have a lot of standing water that's still there from the rain that we had a few days ago, and that water will not go away for the next few days. And so if we have the sod the way it is, then we won't be able to use that field for days at a time after a large amount of rain.
Yeah. So that's my question on the grading piece. It might be worth, so again, I'm looking at more the environmental impact of a plastic field and things like that. Some of the drainage issues, right now the field has not been properly graded. Maybe at some point it was. Now I'm didn't come with a whole set of, here's my presentation on properly grading a field and the cost benefits. But I guess my concern is if we go out to bid, put this out to bid and that's the parameters for it, we may be missing out on something that's a little more environmentally friendly, especially if we're talking runoff from, it's really just plastics getting into our water supply.
And we're going to do it both ways, and that's what we want to be able to do, to get a bid for turf and as well as sod to see what would be more beneficial for us.
Okay, I can yield my time for other people have questions too.
All right, Councilman.
Well, I have a
Bell?
quick question for you, Mr. Duncan. Do you think that we're going to get competitive bids in this short time frame with the desire for the list of proposed projects that you have, Will?
We're hoping so. Each scope of work will be
Different?
different, right? So that's why we're trying to lease that top field where the turf is. We're trying to do that now. Hopefully, we can get that done by June.
Thanks.
Okay, Council, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is, I know we're talking the top field, but we have the master plan out there.
Mhm.
So what if they come back and give us better ideas for the usage of that top field and we've invested in that?
Well,
Or whatever.
and that's an excellent question. So in my meetings with the consultant, this is kind of the direction that we've been going into, and that's why we want to look at both avenues. So the suggestion is turf, but we still want to look at both avenues, turf or sod, and see which one would be more beneficial.
Okay, so for this meeting, you need us to say, go ahead and submit the bids, is that correct? Or go
Yes.
out for the bids?
Yes, to go out for the bids, and then we'll bring back what our
Okay.
findings are.
Okay, I just want to make sure that while there may be some need for some of the repairs, that we don't make too many adjustments without having the look at the final master plan for the parks, because it may involve us moving, for example, where the pavilions are, and
Right.
even where the children's play area as
Right.
well.
And that's why, like, for example, the playground, the dog park, and other stuff is not on here, because we're going to wait for the master plan on those items.
Okay. Councilwoman Bell?
These are just aesthetic upgrades, is what I see here. Is that
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. With that, council, do we have any other questions? Do we have questions from the public at this time? Yes, public. So you get this. You have to come to them and state your name.
Michelle Masurgeon, do you know my address?
You can just.
3756 Poplar Drive. I just have a question on all the things that you've listed to be done. Is there any way of like triaging which ones are like the most important versus the least important? So like, are the bathrooms important versus the field?
And that's an excellent question. Yes, once we get the scope of work back, then we can determine, but the restrooms is on the top of the list because it has been deteriorating over the last several years, so. But yeah, we will determine that once we get the scope of work back and competitive bid back.
Okay, thank you. So council, is that fine for us to move forward?
I just have one more comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think I'm not seeing all of these as inexpensive, just superficial upgrades, especially if we're talking about like putting in turf. There's a lot of stuff you got to do underneath the surface to do that. If I could make a recommendation, could we kind of minimize, especially to your point, Madam Mayor, on, I can't remember if you're the Vice Mayor, so apologies. Maybe both of y'all made the point that we do have the master plan coming out. I know these things are kind of in line with it. But my suggestion would be, again, maybe look at just grading the field. That would still, I think, in the future give us the option of, it's going to fix the water issues, and then it's also going to give us the option to go sod or whatever, we decide to go, forward with in the future. And then maybe just do some minor updates. I think the bathrooms would make sense. That's going to happen one way or another. So we're kind of minimizing it. We're not putting all of our SPOS money. Once that SPOS money's gone, we're already talking about budget cuts. It's gone. We don't have something else that's coming back after that. And I would prefer more of an incremental approach to it until we have that final plan to look at.
Right. And we can look at it both ways to see what the scope of work would be, just doing the grading work and what it would look like with the sod and the turf. So that's what we want to look at.
Yeah, I would just say just do the underlying foundation, throw some grass seed in there, we'll get through the World Cup. it might get torn up anyway,
Right.
you know, and go from there. But I defer
Yeah.
to my colleagues.
All right, Councilwoman Bell?
No, the only thing I was going to say is my understanding is that we're posting the bid to figure out, based on our criteria, and what are the long-term existing issues, what we
Right.
have, and then how much it costs. And then
Right.
from there, I think we can figure out
Right, we'll
what makes
figure
more
out.
sense
Right.
long-term. So I think putting it all out there, and even if we don't do it now, at least we'll have some of the specs as well as the cost-benefit analysis for the long-term that could incorporate RAT with the master plan that's already being
Correct.
developed.
Correct.
Okay, good. So with that, you can go ahead and go forth and work with the city manager in terms of the actual types of bids that you would do.
She said, work with the city manager. He'll
Yes,
go
ma'am.
off on the team.
Day to day, she's in charge. Okay, with that, we'll move to H, and that is to discuss a request from the owner of 590 Woodland Avenue for the city council to approve a discount of interest incurred on a lien for demolition performed by the city at the property, and that will be with our city attorney, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, quick background on this. Come on. In time's up.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Okay. In 2018, the city exercised its nuisance abatement powers on this property, 590 Woodland Avenue. There was what had once been a single-family residence there that was very deteriorated and unsafe. Reaching out to the owner didn't get anything done, so the city filed a lawsuit, got permission from the court, demolished that structure. So when that was done in early 2018, the city incurred a total cost, that's for the demolition itself, legal and all other, $14,077.73. Okay, so there is a lien that the city placed on that property. So and of course that lien accrues interest when it's not paid. All right, so fast forward to December of 2025, I received an inquiry from, because my name's on the lien, of course, and I received an inquiry from a real estate attorney's office. They said, we're working on a closing of this property. Can you get us a payoff letter? In other words, what is the total amount owed, including the interest? So I researched how the interest is done. I added it all up. And the interest over that period of time was $13,647.10, resulting in a total payoff amount of $27,724.83. I sent that payoff letter to the law firm that reached out to me and didn't hear anything more about it until yesterday, when the owner, the executor of an estate that now owns that property reached out to me, and she said, I've been trying to sell this property. It's failed to close twice. I have it under contract to close on February 9th. The amount of this lien and the other obligations of the estate are such that I won't be able to pay off the lien entirely from this closing, and therefore we can't close. Will you grant relief? I said, I have no authority to do that. And in fact, I'm not making a recommendation one way or the other, but I'll lay out what I see as the pros and cons of the two options, right? Option A would be decline this request. If I've been told the truth by this executor, that may result in the property not closing. which means that the city in the short term will receive no money, and this alleged project to build condominiums there will be delayed for an unknown amount of time. Option B would be to grant the requested relief, which, again, I don't know that they'll follow through, but the point of doing that would be in anticipation of the closing going through. The amount that they've asked for as a payoff amount is $17,000. So that would be the original $14,000 that the city's actual costs were, plus another $3,000 for interest, for about a $10,000 discount. The benefits of option B would be the city would actually receive $17,000 in the next 2 weeks. And if all this is to be believed, a condominium development would occur in this location. So that's what you are presented with. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any for me. If you feel like this is too rushed, then I understand. We don't have to operate on their timeline. I just wanted to present you with the request that I've received.
Thank you, City Attorney. I know that you received this yesterday, right? And so, City Manager, did you have any comments as far as this particular item? She's just hot. She's
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm kind of in line with what Mr. Quinn has presented. Again, this is not any urgency on the city's part. What I presented to Attorney Quinn earlier today was that interest is placed on these kinds of liens for a reason, to get persons to pay what they owe in a timely manner. I think that the circumstances of this particular scenario would be that the person who owns the property passed away, right? And so maybe that's the reason why it wasn't paid. I don't know. But if council does move forward with reducing the costs owed to the city, we can use those monies in the near term for another case, nuisance abatement case, right? And we will have those monies on the books to do that. Ordinarily, I would not say that the city should leave money on the table. Again, I guess the justification would be that it has taken some time to get this particular scenario to an estate scenario, whether they could, sell the property or to do whatever they wanted to do with the property. So that's where I am.
okay. At this time, I will entertain comments from the council. Yeah, Vice Mayor.
My comment is for both of you. I did have the pleasure of speaking with the city manager, and thank you for enlightening me on some future things that we got coming down the pike that could benefit the funds. However, it's one thing to discuss possibly granting them some relief, but it's another when it's rushed. This just happened. I don't do overnight. And you really haven't had a chance. You really haven't had a chance, and we're the decision makers. We haven't either. However, I think that we could possibly do something for this individual, and I did get the date. They have a closing in a few days. So
yeah,
it's tough. I wouldn't be able to make a decision tonight. I wouldn't.
So with that, and that's one of my concerns, is setting the precedent. When you have these types of hardships, and that is more the hardship I know from the estate of dealing with this particular property and getting it sold. But my concern is once you start that precedent of saying we'll cut this or we'll do that, then when we have other issues, it doesn't give us a leg to stand on. Right? And so I just want to make sure as we're thinking about how best to address it, that we think about when future issues we have, in terms of addressing liens on properties, what that looks like and how we deal with it as a city. Councilwoman Bell?
Now, Stephen, you know what I'm gonna say. So you telling me that the lien is a total of $27,743, and then we spent over $14,000. And I remember this property, and I think a lot of us do. Initially, it was a gas station, or at least that's what they proposed, and then it was some residential units. And they're asking for a payout of 17. Oh, not to mention the car wash. And that was, and they're proposing that we accept $17,000.
That's
now,
accurate.
Stephen, you know these numbers and how I feel about them. So it ain't about me being rushed. It's about it making sense long term for the investment that we've made.
Right.
And the real reality, if you got some on the table on February 9th, is the executor of the estate here. James, somebody on the Zoom? Nope. Well, there they go.
There you go.
Okay, and they did know we were going to talk about this tonight, right?
All right. I got a motion.
Yes.
Okay, okay. All
I
right,
didn't send him a Zoom link or anything.
Okay,
but-
That's okay.
Okay. Councilman Moore.
Well, this owner or this executor has known about this issue for a while. And they're coming to us at the last minute. They're at a deadline. I don't know what the numbers are for what they're selling the property, but I would hope they would go to the person who wants the property and wants to do a development there. We can't allow a city to be nickel and dime by cheap-ass...
Wait a minute. Wait, don't hit your thing.
Let me hit my...
cheap developers, let me take that back. Cheap developers that don't want to come off the $27,000 to make their profits.
Right.
And that's been the experience of the city, that they bend over backwards for developers that can't finish projects. So I would not vote to reduce this amount by any amount.
Okay, I want to put, okay. Any other comments after that? All right. With
where do we go
that,
from
the rest, do we have anyone who would like to speak
Mayor,
on this
I'm
item? Yes.
I don't know if council would desire to hear what, if there's been any movement on the development at all with the planning office.
That'd be great.
Right.
Yes.
Super great.
That would be amazing.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is 3 properties all combined to make, we're going to call it 600 Woodland Avenue. And it's going to be 13 townhomes and 1 single-family home. The LDP was going through to DeKalb County when I first started. I stopped the entire process because they didn't have an approved sketch plat. In early of 2025, a sketch plat was approved by our Planning and Zoning Commission for the townhomes and the 1 single-family home there. So now we're just waiting for them to push through and take everything to DeKalb County.
I have one question for you, Bob. Now, I know there's some alleys on that street, on those things, right? That are some that are city or county alleys. That's just that has not been resolved. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, I don't think so.
Okay.
There is some right-of-way there that is still a little unknown on the western portion of the property, I believe it is. But our map is showing some sort of easement between that property and the neighboring property where the old nursery shrubbery place used to be.
Right, right. So where all those beautiful big trees, that used to be an alleyway.
Yes, ma'am.
That, okay.
And to
All right.
further what the city manager says, on Thursday, we do have a hearing for a nuisance abatement case as well with our municipal court judge. Staff is recommending demolition of another single-family home for that.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Bell.
Wait a minute, Richard. The 14 days, and you said none of the documentation has gone to the county or hasn't come back from the county?
I've spoken with the engineer several times, and he said that he's still waiting on the potential purchaser to sign off on him submitting everything to DeKalb County. They've got the routing sheets, they've got everything they need to take the sketch plat and the LDP straight to DeKalb County.
And in your professional experience, has that ever moved as fast as less than 2 weeks?
No.
And Stephen, no, she did tell you February 9th, right? That was the date.
February 9th was the date that was
Closing.
presented to me as when the executor wanted to close the sale of the property. The first date I heard from the real estate lawyers was like mid-January. And then I heard nothing again until yesterday.
Okay. So it may sound like something they can renegotiate. with
Yeah,
the-
I mean,
Especially if
For
you
sure.
want that property that
Right.
bad. You know, if we're talking about additional 10,000, that's something that they can manage themselves. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to confirm, council's not interested in the discount for the very good reasons you stated. And then secondly, I think I can take this discussion as direction that if I receive a similar request, I can just say, council's not interested. Got it.
Is that Councilman Perkins?
Thank you. I think I might modify the second part of that because I want to leave our options open. And so I think if there was a significant value add, maybe.
Wait a minute. That's
But
what
I would
it-
entertain, and I think part of our job is entertaining arguments sometimes. And so I think if somebody has, my biggest concern, I'll clarify and speak for myself. My biggest concern with this, again, is the timing of it, and then it's kind of rushed through, and then again, no one showed up to kind of plead their case, you know? We don't know. It could be the case that they are in a very financially difficult spot. This is sort of their last Hail Mary to try to retire. I don't know that. There are cases where that comes into play. And so I think part of our duty is to be able to be open to that in the future, but I don't think this is it. I think if somebody had shown up, somebody had made, I don't know one way or another, right? And y'all haven't had time to review it one way or another, but if we had a significant enough tax benefit to the city, I think it would be worth considering future things. That's just my take, though. If the rest of the council feels differently, we can,
Thank you for that.
yeah.
And so I just want to make sure, Vice Mayor, go
What
ahead.
was the modification though?
I'm just saying, let's not shut down any future things. I think it's worth
Right.
entertaining. If somebody comes to us with a similar request, just tell them to show up and don't do it last minute.
Right,
Right.
right.
Understood.
Right, okay. So we'll move forward in terms of you letting them know that this isn't something, and do you need us to make a motion on this? or-
No, not at all.
Okay.
I don't think
All right.
this needs to appear on the regular agenda. I
Okay.
got the information I needed, and thank you for entertaining this on short notice.
All right, thank you, and thank you, council, for putting it on the agenda. Councilwoman Bell?
I just got one question for you, Stephen. So the next step here, you gonna call them back and follow up, or are you gonna wait for them to call you back?
I think just out of courtesy, I will follow up and say that we discussed this with the council. The council's not interested in a discount. And just leave it at that.
Okay.
I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear from them again next month or another time.
Right.
Maybe they'll come with a little better,
Tell her we meet on Tuesday.
Timing.
right,
Timing is everything.
better timing and you know,
Well, see.
no reason to belabor it, but yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Well, now that this nuisance ordinance is being enforced by the city, we don't really care because that's why we put it in place.
Right.
It's a no deal for me. So I don't want to have people coming in here for these liens that we put on purposely if we're just going to take them back.
Yeah, and I
So-
think it's always worth remembering that nobody gets a lien from the city in this context without having an opportunity
Right.
to fix it themselves.
Right.
No lien.
Correct.
So that was certainly the case here.
As well as probably options to pay it off.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Before it built up so much interest.
Right. Okay. I know, Michelle, did you want to make a comment? You have to come up. You always have to come up. Just state your name.
Michelle Masurgeon, 3756 Poplar Drive. So I just have a question for Steve. So basically, the estate is liable for this, for these funds, the 27,000. Meanwhile, developers buying, is going to give them money, and that just means that their proceeds are going to be less because they have to pay us their debt. Okay. that's-
Or is
More
it
or
that they
less.
have
I
to,
mean-
before they can clear title?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
how it
That's-
works.
that's
It's
the
that
issue.
That's it, right.
The title company won't make their policy, the bank won't lend the money unless they're going to get a clean piece of property at that closing. So something like this has to be paid off
So they
by
would,
that
you know,
time.
technically use the proceeds from the sale would be deducted from their sale.
Right.
And they, so they can pay.
Thank you. All right, thank you everyone for your comments. So at this time, we will go into executive session. So unless you just want to see how long we're going to stay in executive session, you are free to leave, and I will entertain a motion for us to go into executive session for both items.
Have a motion?
Yes.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss potential litigation and a personnel matter.
I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we recess to discuss to an executive session to discuss potential litigation and to discuss a personnel matter. Is there any discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will now move into executive session. Are we moving? Are we staying? Are we? Because I think everybody gone.